Somewhere, in a cemetery you will never visit, a grave is still being cared for. The grass around it is cut, the weeds are pulled, the stone is still standing. But no one comes. No flowers, no birthday visit, no old woman standing there with her hand on the stone, no child asking, "Who was this?" Just a name. And even that name is starting to fade. This is what happens to a grave nobody visits. It does not disappear all at once. That would be easier. Instead, it stays. It stays long enough to become uncomfortable. Because at first, an abandoned grave looks exactly like every other grave. Same grass, same stone, same quiet row. A person walking past would not know that no one has stood there in years. The cemetery still treats it like a grave, but the family does not. And that is where the real abandonment begins. Because a grave is not kept alive by stone, it is kept alive by attention. Someone has to know where it is. Someone has to remember the road. Someone has to turn through the gate, walk past the same trees, count the same rows, and stop at the right name. When that stops, the body is still buried, but the relationship is over. The grave becomes a place with no visitor, a sentence with no reader. At first, people do come. They come in the first week because the pain is fresh. They come in the first year because every date still hurts. The birthday, the death day, the holidays. Someone brings flowers. Someone wipes dirt from the letters. Someone stands there longer than they planned. Then life begins doing what life always does. People move. Children grow up. The person who remembered the grave best gets old. The visits become shorter, then less planned, then accidental. Someone says, "We should go soon." And that sentence becomes a small lie nobody means to tell. Because soon becomes next month. Next month becomes next year. Next year becomes a decade. And one day, the only person still touching the grave is a cemetery worker with a mower. He does not know the person underneath. He may not even read the name. He just trims the grass because the map says this row belongs to maintenance. That is one of the strangest things about abandoned graves. The cemetery can remember by schedule long after the family has forgotten by heart. In some places, the grave will simply remain. The stone will weather. The letters will soften. Rain will sit inside the carved lines. Moss will grow where a finger once traced the name. The headstone may lean a little every year, not enough for anyone to notice. Then one day, it looks old. Not tragic, not shocking, just old. In other places, the grave is not permanent at all. The plot may have been leased for a certain number of years. When that time ends, someone has to renew it. If nobody answers the letters, if nobody pays the fee, if nobody is left to claim responsibility, the cemetery may clear the plot. The stone can be removed. The ground can be leveled. The name can leave the world of grass and stone and survive only in a record book, if even that. This feels cruel. But cemeteries are not built only for the dead. They are managed by the living. Land runs out. Cities expand. Families disappear. Paperwork gets lost. Money stops. And the cemetery does not ask, "Was this person loved?" It asks a colder question. Is anyone still responsible? That is what nobody wants to admit. Responsibility is often the last form memory takes. Not love, not grief, not stories. Just someone answering the phone. Someone signing a form. Someone knowing enough to say, "That grave is ours." When nobody can say that anymore, the grave changes meaning. It stops being a family place. It becomes cemetery property with a human past. And this is why the subject feels so disturbing. Not because the dead person knows. They do not know if the flowers came. They do not know if the stone was cleaned. The horror is not happening underground. It is happening above it, among the living. Because the grave is showing us something we spend our whole lives trying not to see. People forget. Not because they are evil, because memory has a limit. Try it. Name all of your great-grandparents. Not just one, all of them. First and last names. Now picture their faces. Now remember their voices. For most people, this is where the chain breaks. And these were not ancient people. They were close. close enough that they held the babies who became your grandparents. They had rooms they slept in, shoes they wore out, meals they liked, arguments they never finished, secrets they carried until the end. Without them, you would not exist. And still, most of them are gone from your mind. Not buried, gone. That is what an unvisited grave really proves. It proves that being important to someone does not mean being remembered forever. Your children may remember you clearly. Your grandchildren may remember your house, your voice, your face in photographs. Your great-grandchildren may know your name because someone writes it down. After that, you become a branch on a family tree, then a date, then a blank space nobody feels guilty about anymore, because nobody can miss someone they never knew. And the forgetting does not wait for death. It has already started. There are people who once mattered to you deeply, whose faces you can barely rebuild now. A classmate you sat beside for years, a teacher who changed how you saw yourself, a neighbor who watched you grow up, a friend you promised you would never lose. At the time, they felt permanent. Now, they are almost unreachable. You did not choose to erase them. You just kept living. That is what everyone else will do after you. They will keep living. They will go to work. They will raise children. They will move apartments. They will lose old photos. They will forget passwords. They will throw away boxes without knowing what was inside them. No one will sit down and decide to forget you. It will happen politely, quietly, through normal days. That is the real answer. A grave nobody visits is not abandoned in one dramatic moment. It is abandoned by ordinary life, and the world is very good at ordinary life. Morning still comes. Birds still land on the stone. Rain still falls. The cemetery gates still open. Somewhere nearby, another family is crying over a fresh grave, believing their grief will never fade. And for a while, they are right. For a while, grief feels permanent. Then it softens. Then it becomes a story. Then it becomes something people mention less because they do not want to make the room sad. Then the people who carried the story are gone too, and the grave waits. This sounds hopeless, but maybe it is not, because a grave was never the person. It was only a marker, a sign saying someone loved this body enough to put a name above it. That matters, even if it does not last forever. For a while, someone came. For a while, someone remembered. For a while, this patch of ground was not just land. It was a place where love had nowhere else to go. And maybe that is all a grave can ever promise. Not eternity, just a little resistance against time. A stone slowing down the forgetting, not stopping it, because something does survive. Usually not your full name, usually not your face, but smaller things. The phrase your mother says because her father said it. The way your family cooks something without knowing who first made it. The kindness you learned from someone who learned it from someone buried under a stone nobody visits anymore. Most people do not survive as monuments. They survive as habits, as gestures, as warnings, as small pieces moving through other people without labels. So maybe the goal was never to be remembered forever. Maybe the goal was to matter while memory still had hands. To be kind while someone could feel it. To say the thing before the grave needed saying. To visit while visiting still means something. Because eventually, every grave becomes quiet. Some are cleared. Some are reused. Some are swallowed by grass. Some keep standing for 100 years with a name nobody says. But they all move in the same direction. From person, to memory, to record, to stone, to earth. That is what happens to a grave nobody visits. The body remains. The stone waits. The grass grows around it. And slowly, without anger, without drama, the world stops needing to know who is underneath.